In the world of home services, success isn't just about hard work, it's about outworking the competition. Welcome to the OUTWORK'em Podcast, where founders Ryan Kearney and Thomas Eberts break down the cutting-edge strategies that are transforming the home industry. From HVAC to plumbing, roofing to contracting, and everything in between, we're bringing you the tactics and insights you need to dominate your market. Join us as we interview the industry leaders, sharing their secrets to success and their predictions for the future. Get ready to outwork, outsmart, and outgrow your competition. This is the OUTWORK'em Podcast. Okay, welcome, Renata. This is episode 3 of the OUTWORK'em Podcast, produced by Seer Marketers. My name is Jana Kearney, and I am the wife of co-founder Ryan Kearney. And today I'm going to be interviewing Renata Valenti. She is co-owner, co-founder of Mold Gone, a mold testing and remediation company based out of Phoenix. And I have had the pleasure of working with Renata before. I've hired her in the past, and she diagnosed our old house with a mold issue, which was greatly affecting my health. So I'm super grateful to Renata for giving me some clarity on what was going on in my home. I felt like she was very skillful, knowledgeable, non-pushy, straight to the point, clear communicator. And so I was referred her by one of my great friends who is another local business owner in Phoenix. And I have referred her out to a lot of people that I know who have had mold issues in their home. So it's been wonderful working with her. I would highly suggest working with her to anyone who's in the Phoenix area, who is in need of mold diagnosis or remediation. And to get started, Renata, could you share a little bit about your journey of what got you started into mold testing and remediation? And is there a specific event or experience that sparked this path for you?
Yeah, so I'm partnered with my husband. We are 50-50 co-owner in the business, and we're from Denver, Colorado. He got involved in mold remediation. It actually found him, and I'll talk a little bit about what makes us unique. But I was working as an assistant director of nursing at a facility in Denver, and I want to say, I'm probably just a handful of months he had been doing the jobs and had gotten involved in it. And he came to me and just said, we really should start a business and do this on our own, because it's a problem. It's an epidemic in homes. It's a pandemic. I mean, really all over the world. And it's very much misunderstood. And the technology that we use to remediate it is really the only reason that I was open and willing to get involved. And so that's how it made it into my life. I mean, I never in a million years really would have believed that this is something I probably would have gotten involved in. But yes, I mean, that's how it happened. And here we are, 5+ years later.
That's amazing. I love that you guys saw the need for it, because it sure is an epidemic and it is causing so many issues for people, mine included, and so many of my friends. So I'm just so grateful that you guys are out there doing the good work, because it is crazy. And I can't wait to interview you again on some of the more health related portions of that. What do you think sets Mold Gone apart from businesses in this space? And you had mentioned that you guys have like a specific technology that you use. So I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure. So kind of traditional mold removal. I wouldn't even call it remediation. It's more removal is tear down, drag out kind of remedy. And if you're educated in mold and how the pathogen works, you understand that that's not really a solution. It is easy to tear out drywall and not visibly be able to see the mold anymore. But ultimately, when you're tearing out moldy substrate, you're just displacing mold spores and throwing hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of mold spores into the air. And that's ultimately the airborne situation is the chronic problem for people and what affects a person's health. It gets into the HVAC system. HVAC system is a prime environment for it to thrive. And so many people just aren't educated or just don't have the knowledge on that side of the pathogen. So what makes us unique is we bought a license from a company in Utah called Pure Maintenance that has a patent to dry fog technology. And dry fog technology is a medical grade sterilant. So we actually kill the mold spores while we're remediated in what's in the air. So, our process is we do, in order to remediate properly, we still have to do the removal, but having the dry fog sterilant allows us to be much less invasive, which is helpful for homeowners and businesses. It helps keep that piece of the cost down. And if you're not trying to completely gut your house, the great thing about the sterilant is the molecules are much smaller than a microscopic mold spore. So anywhere a mold spore can be, the dry fog can penetrate nooks and crannies and get everywhere. But the biggest, most important piece is we're able to sterilize the HVAC system, the entire ducting system with this process. And that's really where the big problem lies, because when the spores get in there, they float around, and the byproduct of a toxigenic mold spore is a mycotoxin. You breathe that, and that's ultimately what affects your health. And it's a pathogen, so it affects, some people are highly, highly sensitive, and some people immune system is strong. But you don't want to breathe mycotoxins for a long period of time because eventually it will make you sick. So that's how we stand out. And then this is, again, the reason that I got involved, because I could understand the science behind it, and it's so effective and efficient. And truly, the dry fog sterilant was the only reason that I said, okay, yeah, let's do this, because we can actually get people's homes mold healthy again. So that's absolutely what makes us unique.
Yeah, thank you. I love that you guys are doing that. And as someone who has been touched by the mold illness, it's invaluable to have a healthy home. Healthy people think about, healthy bodies, but really your home is part of that, and having a healthy environment to live and breathe in. When we were living in a moldy home, I definitely had so much upper respiratory, and we were back and forth from that house for 4 years because we travel part-time. So for the long effects of having breathed in that mold for a long time, I definitely feel it in my lungs. So it's great that you guys focus on the HVAC. And I know some HVAC companies don't necessarily offer that type of cleaning. So you working with other local HVAC companies is probably valuable. Have you guys worked with other local HVAC to remediate a problem?
Yeah, we're connected with a number of different specialized contractors that, we're the go-to for mold. Tons of realtors we work with, so this is a great thing too, because there's a huge misconception that there's no mold in Arizona because it's a dry climate, and it's very absurd. And there's so many realtors that a buyer will come in, and the realtor is representing the seller. Even buyer's agents at times the buyer will be like, I want to have a mold inspection. And the realtor is like, why? There's no mold in Arizona. And so Arizona is very problematic, very problematic with mold for that reason, because people believe it doesn't exist out here. But the building material in Arizona is, when you're in states that are humid and have a ton of water, they'll build with treated material. That's not the case out here. So, I mean, drywall, any porous substrate is prime nutrition for mold, and mold starts to grow within 24 to 48 hours. So yes, and there's no HVAC system. I mean, we don't clean, we sterilize.
Okay.
An HVAC system or HVAC company will come out and clean the dust out of ducts, but if the mold hasn't been killed before that, they're ultimately just moving the spores around too. So we don't clean, we kill, we remedy and remediate and kill the mold spores. So that's a difference. But yes, there's a couple of HVAC systems or companies we're connected with, home inspecting companies. Home inspectors are not trained in mold. So if mold comes up, they're not certified, so they can't touch it. So they'll call me and we'll come out and do the inspection. And you would not believe the amount of buyers that call us that have been in their house for a year and a mold situation wasn't disclosed to them. And it's really sad because they're super sick. They're in this new home that they were so excited about. And it's something that the seller should have covered. And now they have this expense, and all of these stressors and other things that they're dealing with because of the situation that, arises shortly after they get into the house. But yes, we are definitely, and builders and contractors and different, because they just don't really truly have the experience with dealing with mold in the way that we do. So yeah, lots of partnerships.
Yeah, that's great to know, because through this past experience, I definitely was traumatized, and living in a moldy house is something I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. So I will absolutely use you guys when we decide if we end up getting a place in Phoenix, to pre-check that place. And anyone I know who is in the process of buying a home or renting a home, I'll definitely point them your way, now that I know that you guys offer that service. You guys really are great at the customer experience, and you do a lot of education with your people, even in a short time. I mean, whenever you came out, you were very efficient. Like I said, clear communicator, streamlined, but you're just a wealth of knowledge. And what are some of your specific strategies and initiatives that you've implemented to ensure customer satisfaction? Because it seems like you guys have that really dialed in.
Yeah, I'm just truly kind of how you summarized it. I don't, this is service, and there's other people that do mold removal and things. So there is a sales aspect to it, but I don't ever feel like I'm selling. I just, like you said, educate and give the information. And most people, people will call and just be like, I've never dealt with this before, and I have no experience with mold. So I just try to explain, and just explain our process and explain why I believe that we're the best in the aspect of the dry fog sterilant, because it is the most efficient, effective way to treat the mold. And I wholeheartedly believe that deep in my heart. And so I just convey that when I'm educating somebody. And I try not to overload. And I always kind of say that when I'm talking. I said, I know that this is a lot of information, so let it digest. And I always have my phone. You can call me or text me any questions that come up. No question is dumb or wrong. There's not too many people that are very educated in the mold realm. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and just, I can't tell you. And then the piece that I have is, and I don't think that this has been mentioned yet, but that I'm a registered nurse. So I am educated on the medical side. And I can't tell you how many times I've walked into, and when I say that I'm a registered nurse, that people will start crying, because they're like, because again, it's misunderstood in Western medicine, because we don't learn about it in nursing school. You don't learn about it in med school. So it's as if it doesn't exist. And people are like, somebody that's going to believe me and doesn't think that I'm crazy. And, so I just, it's like that, just being empathetic to the person who's dealing with it, the client, and listening and understanding and letting them know that this is real and we can make your house healthy again. So that's the biggest thing that I try to do, and just being compassionate and, all of those things for the person that's sick and scared and, the unknown and all of those kind of things that come along with mold, because we don't have the information.
Yeah. And again, firsthand experience with you on that.
Yeah.
After being gaslit for 4 years of what was going on with my health, and then finally having someone come in and assess it and make me feel like I wasn't crazy. Just a little bit of backstory on that. I was having a ton of neurological issues, a ton of skin issues, respiratory, digestive, you name it. Spent thousands of dollars on different naturopaths, went on every single diet, every single supplement, every single drug that you can think of to try to get better. And when I was living in that moldy house, every therapy that I tried to implement, it actually just made me worse. And so finally, when you tested and you called it out and you sent me over those results, it was so reassuring to just have someone point out what was actually going on and make me not feel crazy, because as soon as I left that house, I did start healing and my neurological symptoms slowly went away. And when we were in the process of moving out of the house, actually, because we weren't living in it and tending to it, and I was cleaning every single day. So here's another thing is moldy houses, from what I've experienced, they feel, no matter how much cleaning you do, they always feel a little bit dirty. And so I was constantly cleaning and it never felt like the air was clean. But when we were moving all of our things out, it got so bad to where our house actually smelled like ammonia. It was like this super, super strong smell as we were moving out. And I don't know if that's because, and we were renting at the time, but the handyman that the owner of the house sent over, he came in and essentially we had a leak in our bathroom wall and the pipes had burst. And so he came in and he put this bleach stuff inside the wall, put a fan on it, and then sealed it back up. And I think that that's really what the straw that broke the camel's back, because after that, I couldn't be in the house for even 10 minutes without my face twitching and getting super sick.
Yeah. So your story is the story. It's the story that I hear, and it's bleach is the worst thing that you can put on mold. It actually makes it worse. It's not strong enough to kill it. And it ultimately just bleaches it to where you can't see it, but it tells mold that you're trying to kill it and it sheds its outer shell and multiplies. So it's not surprising that after all of that, you were in a worse circumstance with your health, because I guarantee you the mold spores tripled, from them not doing proper work. And a handyman should never be touching a mold situation.
No,
ever. Yeah.
we learned that. Yeah. Call a specialist, go to the specialist for mold, because it is serious, you guys. From your perspective, what is the most crucial marketing strategies for people in your industry, so home service businesses, and are there any surprising trends that you've noticed?
I've thought about this question a lot, because we started this business. We started working on everything end of the year 2019, and we were officially, our LLC and our DBA in January of 2020. And as I said, we lived in Denver, and literally got Jared out here in mid-February of 2020. And he started I was still in Denver trying to get things situated, and then 3 weeks later, COVID hit. So we were in and so marketing is quite different than it was prior to COVID. And fortunately for us, so how we started out was Home Advisor. It's called Angie Leads now. But that was it was a lot of work because Angie Leads is a home service company. It's like there's Thumbtack and all of these different ones. And you get a lead, but there's 8 companies that get the lead. So you've got to chase it down and you've got to call it back right away. And usually they, pick 3 different companies to come out. And so, and at that point I was learning still a lot, but I was doing the same thing where it was just basically, this is what we do. Here's the information. We treat the whole home. It's not a Band-Aid, that kind of thing. It's like in medical, we're not treating the symptoms, we're treating the root cause. And so I would focus on that. I mean, and crazy enough, because everybody was cooped up in their houses during that time, people were really concerned about mold. So all through COVID, we were busy and we worked the entire time, even being a green company per se. Jarrett had been doing this for quite some time in Denver too, fortunately. So we had that under our belt. But now it's pretty much all online. I mean, I just Google reviews. I work really, really, really hard to get those reviews. And if you go read our reviews, the majority of them, I'm named in them. Jarrett's, name. I'm the one that's kind of the face of the company. So you'll see my name, but I understand that that's important. I just got a call and we did a remediation job for a gentleman, and your reviews are stellar. That's I'm going with you because your reviews are unbelievable, that kind of thing. So that's that's important. So, being committed to that, working, just having really good work ethic and believing in yourself and what you're doing and all of those things. That's marketing. We do pay a marketing team. We have a online that we do Google pay-per-click, PPC. So we do, and they work on our SEO so that we have when you look for mold remediation, hopefully we're one of the top ones that are popping up because there are multiple companies. I don't personally search for us to see how that looks, but we get quite a few calls and they'll say that, we popped up and then they saw how many reviews we had and they're, like 5 stars. So they looked at us and, looked through all of that. And then they go to our website, and the website has to be set up well, so that's appealing to the client as well. So all of those things. And just now I'm starting to get out and do some networking. We have a property manager, like a multifamily property management groups. We have a number of them, but one that we've worked with for a while that tries to do monthly networking stuff. And so I'm working on getting more out to that. I have a realtor that just reached out to me last night that wants to do some networking stuff. I went to a government contracting networking event. So doing any of that stuff that you can do too, because now the majority of our business really truly is word of mouth and referrals. And that's, once you get to that place, it's a great place to be because I'm not having to chase down a lead that came through on Home Advisor, or Angie Leads, or Thumbtack, or that's where you have to start to build to get your name out there. And then when you do, that reputation is so important, and business can happen fast. Oh, another thing that's great is I'll have realtors call me and say that we're listed for mold remediation in the realtor database. That's huge, and I don't know what realtor put us in there, but creating those relationship building is the most important piece in service industry. Just like, Jana said, anybody that asks her about mold, she's referring to me and to us because of the relationship that we created, and that's where we're at now. Relationship building is everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Relationships are so important. And I see a trend in a lot of the clients that we have worked with, either as clients of the agency or just worked with as like people that we've hired for different home service businesses. And because we always look at people's online reputation and things like that, just because that's the nature of work that we do. And the thing that I really see with most successful home service businesses are that the union of both of those things, the word of mouth and actually like showing up, having good work ethic, speed to lead kind of mentality, and just great at what they do. So you have to be great at what you do. You have to be great with people. And then you
100%.
also have to have a great place for people to land when they're searching you on the internet. And so having the website that's SEO optimized and the paid per clicks and the Google reviews. And when I see, I definitely have an affinity for husband and wife teams. And that's, I mean, to be honest, that's a lot of husband and wife teams are extremely successful because they are coming at it from two different angles. And when they have all those components together, it just creates this super strong business. And I really love to see that. So I'm glad that you spoke on both part of those. So we've already kind of gone over how you build trust in the industry because you have your medical background. And I mean, that definitely made me feel really like immediately trusting towards you, because I was like, oh, she knows that this is serious for my health. And you were coming in with two different expertises in my, like in my opinion, when you came in. So a lot of people have a hard time. A lot of home service businesses struggle with managing their online reviews. And you kind of already went over your approach to that. Have you ever dealt with any bad reviews or like reviews that you had to, and how did you deal with that? Like, how did you address that situation?
Yeah, we actually not maybe month coming up on 2 months ago received one, and it's unfortunate because it's from a competitor, and Google's policy is that the competitor is not allowed to write a review about a competitor. And we've been in Google's tough because they don't really follow through with what they say that they're going to do. And I flagged it multiple times. My marketing team flagged it. Long story short, they're saying they're not going to take it down. So I just responded to it and in an intelligent, informative way and explained that. And for me, I really feel like this review's 10 times better than a 5-star review because I got to explain how this is false and wrong, and that they're just trying to tarnish us. And, so if somebody actually takes the time to read it, can see that, we got called out for a tenant, and these guys got called out by the owner, property manager to do the work. The tenant was concerned that there was still mold in the place, and we went out and did testing, and we ended up going out twice, and the competitor wanted me to come out and test with them, but the tenant was my client. So if the tenant would have called me, but at that point, let's just get a third party in to do it, but they didn't like the results that we were getting. And it comes from a third party environmental lab. I can't make up these results that we got. And yeah, so so you just have to, we're human, and we work really, really hard to do a great job. And at the end of the day, we warranty and we guarantee our work. We want to make sure that the space, living space, working space, airborne quality, health quality is mold healthy. That's our goal at the end of the job. But we're not, the reality is you're not going to be able to keep everybody happy. And that's your clients too, even though this person was not our client that wrote this review. So it's just be graceful and, don't be emotional when you respond to these things and just state the facts. It's kind of like if you were, at court and you were on the stand, being cross-examined or whatever, those questions that you state the facts and tell the truth. And if you do that and you're honest, then the outcome will be positive, even though somebody is trying to put a negative cloud over you, kind of thing.
Totally. Yeah. And the fact that you took the time to get right on top of replying back to the Google review, that's huge. That's definitely something that people look for. And, in one of our past businesses, my husband and I, we used to sell products on Amazon, and people they fight dirty in the competitive world with these different businesses. And that's something that would happen even on Amazon as well. And you'd get competitors coming in and leaving negative reviews for products. And hopefully the public is able to see through that, especially when you clarified in the review what happened. And yeah, so when you have things like that, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because they get to see, oh, I wonder what this one bad review was. And then
Exactly.
They click on it and they look at it and they're like, oh, actually, this is someone who's just being a hater, or there's just someone who's just calling me out, and that won't, affect you negatively. It actually brings that human element and gets their wheels turning a little bit more about your business. So when I talked to you yesterday, it sounded like you hired on a new technician. And is this your first technician that you've hired on? Is this someone else? I'd love to hear about that. A lot of home service businesses, that's a huge point of stress for them, is hiring on new technicians and retaining them, training them, all of that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
It's tough. It really is. Jarrett and I have been grinding this business by ourselves the majority of the 5 years that we've been out here in the Maricopa County area. We've had a couple of techs with him out in the field on jobs that it seemed like they were going to be with us the long haul, long term, and they didn't last 90 days. Now we're a small company. We're working on growth right now. We never want to be a huge company, but we're working on some level of growth. And he's got a tech out in the field with him. And I have a younger lady that's she started working with us back in April, and she's wonderful. She's doing a great job, and she sees the opportunity in the career side, like not looking at it as just a job. I can't imagine that she would leave at any point, but you just never know. But the big thing is value with your employees. If you want them to stick around, we live in a tough world right now. It's very expensive, and they've got to be able to live, so you've got to, if you want good help in this industry, you're going to have to pay them more than you probably want to. I mean, that's the big thing. And, rewarding them, whenever Isabella, she's our inspector, if she gets her name in a positive way in a review, she gets a $50 bonus for that. And like little things like that, because that it's a reward, you know what I mean? So it makes them feel good, and they're doing well, and reminding them of that and little things. And as things progress and we do more, she gets paid more. Other in different things. Like if she ends up selling a job or bringing a job in, I'm going to pay her a percentage on that. So there's all of these ways to make additional money. And as you continue to show, you're going to make more money, that kind of thing. But I think that, that's the most important piece, because it really is tough to keep employees. And it's interesting because there's, in my opinion, I was a W-2 employee for a lot of my life. And like, there's just being able to come into a job and be independent and have the opportunity to grow and make more money. You would think that people would be all over this kind of thing. But most people, most of us are conditioned to a paycheck and needing to know, because in this, especially for us in business, you can have huge months and not so great months, and all of these things. And I think most people are afraid of that uncertainty. And it's hard to shift your mindset. And then, I grew up in the 90s, and work ethic is huge for my generation. These younger generations, it's not as strong for the most part, and yeah. the anything that's off in their life, it's hard for them to get out of bed and those kind of things. So, but I think if you inspire your employees and reward them and those kind of things, then you should be able to find some solid, partners in that aspect.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the work ethic, because it's the OUTWORK'em Podcast, and that you found a younger woman that had that because of what you said with the younger generations. And it does seem like it's just kind of finding the diamond in the rough out there in the world and building them up and pouring into them and making sure that they're valued and incentivized. And that takes a specific personality too, because like you said, like you would think that people would want to make more money, but there's some people who just want to know exactly how much they're going to make, and they want to do the bare minimum when they come in and of what is expected, and they don't care too much about incentives, which, for my entrepreneur brain doesn't compute, and I'm sure for you as well. So finding someone who does want to be an employee and does want to grow with you, that you're pouring into and incentivizing, I mean, that's amazing. How did you find her? Was it word of mouth? Did you have someone hire her? Like, how did you find her?
Actually, she's our animal house sitter when we travel. Oh. So I found her on Rover, and then actually we had sort of kind of knew each other because she was working in a restaurant, a lunch, fast casual restaurant in my neighborhood that I'm out running around doing however many inspections and on the phone. And I'd stop in the restaurant and grab lunch. And so the first time I took my dog over to her, she's like, "I know you. I see you in the restaurant," And so she's been house sitting for us for quite a while. And Jarrett and I both was like, she might actually, because she was working a job and then had this little side hustle that she was doing, was like, she might be a good fit. And then at the end of this past year, she went through some tough personal stuff. And it's tough when you own a business and you do things a certain way. And, I'm a master multitasker. I have, you become a mom and do all of these things, and I can handle way more than the average person. It's hard to have faith that you're going to be able to delegate and put these roles on somebody and they're going to do it as well as you do. It's a hard thing to let go. And we learned that she was going through this period, and we're like, well, maybe it's time to give her this opportunity. And it's crazy because she's like, me not driving all over the valley now and all is a huge load off of me, but I really don't feel like I'm doing any less. So I don't know how I was doing everything that I was doing, but now she's amazing. She's, she's still learning, but she's doing a great job, and she wants to do well. She wants us to be proud of her, and these kind of things. And I'm kicking myself because why didn't I do this in the very beginning? As soon as we had the thought that she would be a good fit, why didn't we bring her in? So, yes, having faith in that. And I'm grateful that I didn't have to go out and interview, really. It was somebody that we had a relationship, and, so all of that was established as well. And and we're a kind of a home-based business. We don't have an office space. And so, like, for when I was training her, for her to come into our house and work with her, like the comfort of all of that was already there. So that was really great.
Yeah, I love that. We've been consuming a lot of information about hiring lately, and that sounds more like a person first approach, and taking on a team member for who they are and then building up the skill versus hiring for the skill and hoping that they have the personality. So, yeah, I love that you just saw something in her that you were like, oh yeah, like she's trustworthy, because that's huge. That's so much of the equation.
And coachable.
And
I
yeah.
knew, and I knew, I knew she was coachable, and I knew she was intelligent, and she had I could see that the drive and the ambition was there. And to your point, that's so much more important to me than, what you can spout off from, what you learned in your education. Or I just truly believe if somebody, the personal pieces, you can't teach that.
Totally. So hack, instead of hiring a headhunter, just go ahead and hire someone off of Rover, because they're an animal person, so they've got to have a decently good heart and be trustworthy. So that's a little hot take for you guys there. Looking ahead, what is the biggest opportunity or threat that you see on the horizon for mold testing and the remediation industry?
I thought about this question quite a bit too, and there's huge opportunity. Especially out here in Arizona, because it's massive. The county is huge. There's so many people here. We feel like we haven't barely tapped the surface. And I really don't feel, it's interesting, because in the beginning of this, I was a assistant director of nursing. I made good money, but it was a job, and it took me. I always had a entrepreneur, like I had that side, but I didn't have tons of experience with it. My brother and I owned a restaurant together, and that was I was in the service, and service industry, like restaurant is huge. I think that teaches, if you work in that industry, you can be a business owner, because the people skills and everything that you learn. But it was the first time that I was throwing money into it, and really investing into a business. And it was hard for me in the beginning. Like, I was just like so concerned about the jobs that were coming in. And now, even when we have, because whatever's going on in the economy and the world, and, we have an election coming up and all of these things that affect everything, I've learned these past handful of years that we're always good. Service industry is great, because, and especially what we do, because people need it, and it's like, it's not, buying your clothes, like people, their health is important to them, so
100%.
And mold is always going to be here. So I've gotten to a space where I truly don't feel threatened. Even when we have a period where we have like a lull of a couple of weeks, you start to be like, is something happening? And then just out of nowhere, I get bombarded, so I think that we're just in a solid industry that we will just continue to grow with the choices that we make.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that your industry is only going to grow as people become more aware of the health implications, and, with all of the weather things that we have, and the new studies that come out on specific building materials. As the public becomes more educated, I think that there's going to just be more of a need. And correct me if I'm wrong on this statistic, but I heard somewhere that like 80% of the buildings in America are water damaged.
Oh yeah. It's like close to 100% that have mold. Now it's just a matter of how unhealthy or healthy it is. It is, it's crazy. Like, you would not believe, people are just like, oh, I bought a new build, and I absolutely don't have to worry about mold. You would not believe the amount of new builds, because they rush through it. They don't connect the dishwasher right. First time you turn it on, water everywhere. It's not going anywhere, unfortunately. But to your point, my hope is that in the fairly near future that when you go in to do your yearly blood work, a urine mycotoxin test is ordered, because it should be every year, because it's that prevalent, So my hope is that now that people there's so much information and people are more aware and educated, that those things are going to start to shift. And what we talked about earlier, everybody going, I don't care if it's a new rental, a new home that you're purchasing, before you move in, if you've learned, or a thorough mold inspection before you sign those papers.
100,000%. I mean, that is the most important thing that I'll be looking at next time we move into a new place. I mean, and just to give a little bit of clarity there, after we moved out of our house, everyone in our family got their houses mold tested, and we have family all across, from the west to the east coast, and everyone had to get their houses tested, because anyone that we stayed with long term, we needed to make sure that it was safe for me to be there, because my immune system was so damaged from living in that moldy house. And so I was like, I didn't want to rush into a rental. I didn't want to rush into buying anything, because of that very fact of like, I don't know how I'm going to make sure that it's not moldy. Now I know if it's in the Phoenix area. Do you guys service any of the surrounding, like Phoenix, Scottsdale, Mesa? What's your service area?
All of Maricopa County. We in the beginning, we would, we've done work in Sedona and Prescott and Flagstaff and Payson, all around. We will drive outside of Maricopa County for remediation jobs, but we can't for testing and inspection. We're too small and busy, to drive that far. But if somebody hears about us and they need remediation, then we will definitely make that trip to help somebody outside of the county as well.
And you guys are really fair on what you charge to come out and test, and you're not pushy at all from experience. I mean, the first time that I got tested from you was in 2022, I believe, and our levels came back elevated, but you were like, if you're not sick, then it could potentially be okay, but still let your landlord know, because we were renting at the time, and I had showed the test to my landlord, and he didn't really do anything. He sent in the handyman. The handyman did his nonsense, and then I don't want to talk too much crap on the handyman, because I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? But this is why it's so important to have a specialist come in, because he just made the situation worse, and my landlord wasn't fully aware of how severe the situation was. But you were not being like pushy about it, which is great too, because obviously you guys are on the testing and the remediation side, so you are incentivized to push for remediation, but you weren't pushy at all. But you were clear, if you're having health issues, this could be a problem. And at the time, I was just so resistant to the fact that it could be mold. I put up this wall, this barrier of like, it can't be that, like it has to be something else. And then as things got worse and worse and worse, a couple years later, we had you come back, and the mold spore count was just through the roof, and you let me know at that time the severity of the situation. And when I heard you give me your download on it, at that point I was like, because I had a baseline for your tone, and like, so when you told me that it was severe at that point, I really trusted you, and I was like, okay, we got to get out of here. So I really appreciate that. So on the Outwork'em podcast, again, going back into the work ethic part of things, we talk a lot about the hustle and the dedication it takes to succeed in the home service business industry. And I'd love for you to share a story about a time that you had to outwork the competition and to win a project or overcome a challenge?
Yeah, we don't do that. I don't, if somebody doesn't want to work with us, fortunately we have plenty, that's not, so what I have is, we tell people, like, get other estimates, because we're typically a fraction of the cost, and 9 times out of 10, people are coming back to us and hiring us. And I just always remind people that this is the difference. Is this company treating your whole home? Because they aren't. We do. And so if your health is important to you, you're going to hire us. If the cost is important to you and you find a place that's a little bit less than us, you're going to hire them. And we don't want to work with those people anyways, because in the service industry, your clients can turn into real nightmares if they're not hearing what you do and how you do it, and they're not satisfied. So for us, it's, go hire the other company, because we have enough business that we don't need to fight for a job. I give like I said, I don't feel like I sell. I educate you. I give you the information, tell you why I believe we're the best option. And if they hear that and want to move forward with us, great. And our close rate is high. We have a high percentage. So that's where I sit. And talking about these other things, kind of the hustle and the grind, what works for me is follow up, follow up, follow up. I have a notebook of all the estimates that I wrote, and I follow up. And that is really probably the outworking of other companies. And Jarrett will tell that to anybody, like, how I follow up is probably the key. And, the amount of closing that we do on the estimates that I write. So, that's where it's at for me, but I have no problem with, I'm not, if you're trying to argue with me about why and how we do things, then it's probably best that you go with that other company. And that's just where I'm at with chasing down people as far as that's concerned, because the next job is going to come in. So just move on to the next one.
Totally. Yeah. And you, as someone who has been a, client of yours, I definitely sense it's like a humble confidence that comes across. It's like, you know what you guys are doing, the kind of work that you're putting out there. There isn't any like pushiness. It's just very matter of fact of like, this is what's going on, and do with it what you will, make your choice. And that feels good. And the follow-up, you are really good at the follow-up. I mean, even with, and we'll talk about this next, segueing into, you are affiliated with a cleaning product company. Is that correct? If you'd like to talk a little bit about that, I'd love to hear.
Yeah. It's Melaleuca. So kind of what we were talking about is like, even outside of the mold, there's so many toxins in our home with everything that we use. And Melaleuca is a online green or non-toxic caustic store, so it's basically like Target or Walmart, but guaranteed to know that, and it's across the board. It's cleaning products, it's supplements, makeup, skincare, all of these things. And we, it's unfortunate that we live in this world that we can't trust really anything that we consume, and so yeah, I'm super passionate on that side as well. And I do share with my clients, like, if we have a job, once you get your home remediated, you got to think about, living the best non-toxic life that you can. And it's great that we live in a more informative world in that space, that there's these companies exist, but it's crazy that Melaleuca has been around for, I think it's coming up on 40 years. It's,
wow.
They like 1990, 85, I think is when they started. But yes, that's a huge piece too. So when you're dealing with a mold situation, in order to, as heal, you can't detox the mold until your environment is mold healthy. So that's the first step. And then if you're somebody that struggles with detoxing, there's binders and different things to help, getting in infrared saunas and, getting it out of your body, sweating it out. And that's a roller coaster, because you'll have days where you feel great, but when this stuff, the mycotoxins, are being pulled out of your system, you're going to feel like crap, but then once you're good with all of that, keep your home as non-toxic as possible. And that's with our cleaning products, and I know that you can make your cleaning products. There's not a ton of stuff, but when you're a busy person and for convenience and everything, it's great to know that there's companies like Melaleuca out there that you can trust and get this stuff from, and know that there's not, you have no question of what chemicals and toxins are in these daily products. These are our essential daily goods that we use. And as women, it's just crazy what we put on our skin and don't even think about it. And it absorbs everything. Right. So that's that piece, but I just try to be as non-toxic as possible on all aspects of, what I consume.
Yeah, and that is such a huge part of it, because when you live in a moldy house, your detoxification pathways can become so overburdened. And again, from personal experience, it made me extremely sensitive to all chemicals. And so if someone's using bleach, across the house, it's making me feel like I can't breathe. And so having an option for a non-toxic cleaning supply is great. And we can link your referral link into the show notes here. So if anyone's interested in getting that, I know I need to get some new laundry detergent. So if that's something that they have, I'll be ordering that. And then I'm going to ask another question here, but I'd love to have another episode or interview with you where we talk about all of the health components of this, because this is a little bit more business this time. But, just for you guys who are interested, because I'm sure you will be, about the wealth of knowledge that she has about healing from mold, I'd love to go there next time. So let us know in the comments if you want to hear an episode about mold healing, because it's huge. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned in your entrepreneurial journey that you'd like to share with listeners? And if you could just give one piece of marketing advice to a new home service business owner just starting out, what would it be?
So on my journey, you asked? It's staying committed, and just working hard and having faith in yourself. Like, it's, when you're first starting out, it's scary. You don't know what direction anything is going to go, and just have faith. And when you have wins come in where, you go out and it's like your first job that comes through, that's, if you are committed to it and work hard, it's going to continue and it's going to grow. And then for me, the marketing piece, again, is, the world that we're living in is the relationship building. That's going to be, because it's, because I do all of my reviews. It's not just customers, it's not just clients. Any business partner that I have, a realtor or builder, I'm asking them to write us reviews too, because you want to get that side. And then once you have all of this stuff, again, the follow-up is the most important piece, because we live in a busy world. People have their jobs and all of their kids and everything that they're doing. And I can't tell you how many times I get, thank you for following up with me. and have a system, like give it a couple of days. And if somebody tells you that they're ready in a week, make sure you almost to the day and the time follow up with them in that week time. So, old school, I write everything down. I have a notebook, and if somebody tells me, or they say, yes, I'm approving the estimate, we're going to do the job, they get crossed off the list. Or if it's somebody that's like, it's out of my price range, I cross them off the list. Or if they say, check in with me 6 months down the road, I have a note to check in with them 6 months down the road, because I guarantee you in 6 months, that's a job. So you just have to keep a good solid list, and, it's going to flow.
That's awesome. That's great advice. And you're so inspiring. And I love learning more about your story, because you'll be a forever referral from me. That's for sure. I know people who I have referred to you, friends who have come back to me and also said that they really loved interacting with you. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for you coming on and chatting with us a little bit more about your entrepreneurial journey, what you guys do, your business. And I'll be excited to have you on in the future. So thank you so much for your time today. And is there anything else you would like to add at the end of this interview?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, thank you, Renata. And I can't wait to catch up with you again next time.
Yeah, me too. Looking forward to it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.